Hey there, so today I wanted to talk about the 5 books that turned me into a reader. So if you're new here, hey, my name is John, and I just started seriously reading every single day within the past few months. It's been a ton of fun, but I was someone that never enjoyed reading. I was diagnosed with ADD as well as dysgraphia when I was really young. School for me was always really difficult, so reading for me was always something that felt more like a chore than something that I truly enjoy, and that is no longer the case. I truly enjoy reading, and I have been having so much fun, so I want to talk about the books that helped that happen for me. I'm not necessarily saying that these are my favorite books of all time, but they are ones that are important in my journey to becoming a reader.
Shout out books.
So the first book is one that I actually don't have physically because I listened to the audiobook, and this was Project Hail Mary. This was one that my girlfriend actually recommended that I listen to because she had heard that I've been wanting to get into reading, and so she knew that I like sci-fi. That was something that I was into. I really like the aesthetic of sci-fi. And so she recommended this book, and she was like, you should really listen to the audiobook because that's what she did, and she really enjoyed it. This was actually a few years ago, and so I gave it a listen. And man, oh my gosh, it was so much fun to, the audiobook is just fantastic. I can't recommend, especially if you're someone that's worried, because I've seen a lot of reviews of that book where people that didn't really like the book, they say that the science was a little bit hard to grasp and hard to understand, which I totally understand. I think it would have been difficult for me as well to really grasp everything if I was just reading the pages. I don't know for sure, right? Because I haven't done it. But being able to just listen to it was really nice. My recommendation is to just don't worry about not understanding all of the science wording and the terms and stuff, because I do feel like the characters and the story that happens is strong enough to carry you through. And I feel like you eventually start to kind of understand what's going on as you make your way through the book. Obviously, everyone's going to be different, but for me, I definitely was very confused at the start, and I was like, I don't understand what the science stuff is, but it really, I'm just glad that I stuck through it because the story in that book was so beautiful, and especially just the way that the audiobook was done, the relationships in that book, it was just fantastic. With Project Hail Mary, I really don't want to say too much about it. I know that there's a movie coming out, which I am actually very excited about. I've heard that it's going to be very good. It seems like the pre-reviews have been really good, which it makes me very happy. I know The Martian was also a lot of people really like that. Same author, right? But Project Hail Mary, there's so much stuff that can be spoiled for you, and I feel like it's so worth to just go in without any knowledge. But basically, the most basic rundown that I could give you is that you start the book with this guy who is in space, and he has no idea really who he is, what's going on, why he's in space. He's completely lost everything. All his memories are scrambled, and basically over time you start to find out more about this person, Ryland, and you learn more about the reason maybe why he is on this spaceship and the reasons behind that. And there's a ton of other stuff that goes on, and maybe I'm not selling it very well, but I just don't want to spoil it because I think it's so worth going in knowing nothing. But that book, and then the audiobook obviously in particular, was the first one that really hit me in the feels, and I was just, every time I would go on a run or do anything where I could listen to the audiobook, I was so excited to learn more about the characters in this book. And book number 2 was actually one that I listened to the audiobook, but I was gifted this from my girlfriend for Valentine's Day, which is so cool, man. I'm so excited to have this because this is probably my favorite book of all time, and that is The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wang. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard about this book, but again, this was one that I had actually one of my really close friends from back in San Diego. He had just started reading, and he was like, dude, you need to listen to this book because it was before I was reading, and he was like, just listen to the audiobook at least, right? And I am so glad I did, because this book was the first book that ever ripped my heart out. That's the best way that I can put it. It absolutely, at least for me, ripped my heart out, but also it was such a beautiful story, and the magic system was interesting enough to get me interested in the story. But I feel like more than anything, yes, this book is fantasy, I guess you could say, but it almost feels more like a family, I don't want to say drama in a negative way, but it's like the inner workings of this family and the good things and the bad things, and you really get in depth of or not each of the members of the family, but a good amount of the members of this family and the trials and tribulations that they are facing. I would say the 2 main characters are Mamoru and Misaki. And so Mamoru is Misaki's son, right? And Mamoru, he is a 14-year-old kid, and the way I kind of think of it as far as the magic is concerned is almost like The Last Airbender. So he is, this kid that he knows how to do this skill and he's trying to perfect it. He's going to a school that is supposed to help teach you how to perfect those things, right? And so you kind of deal with a little bit of the school aspect as well in this book. And Misaki, his mom, at first it seems like she is just maybe a mom that is just doing her mom stuff, like just a regular mom, right? And you find out that maybe there is more to Misaki than meets the eye. So the main kind of conflict that is going on in the book is there is war that is going to probably be happening, and that war is going to most likely be brought to where Mamoru and Misaki are living, where they stay. And apparently the place that they live and like the village and the area that they live has been known as, it's like the first line of defense. They are the hardest fighters, and they are basically like, if war happens, like you are the tip of the spear kind of thing, right? And so that's kind of the inciting incident, but there's so much more to it than just like war and fighting. There is family drama. It's just such a beautiful story that is more than just, magic and fighting. That's part of it, but that is just like really is just the tip of the iceberg with this book. I highly recommend this book. I don't feel like I've done the best job promoting it, but you should check it out if it's something that you're interested in. So the next book is actually kind of a series, honestly, but it's the Silo series. I only have the second book in the series. I don't have any of the other ones. I had the first book, but I ended up giving it to a friend so they could check it out. But the first book is called Wool, and this series was like the first series that I was like invested, right? Because I listened to the audiobook of the third one, but the first two I read, and I was so interested in the story and invested in the story, and it was the first time that I had ever like had a series that really resonated with me. So if you're not familiar with the Silo series, the most basic way that I can explain it is that it's kind of a dystopian sci-fi-ish world, right? Where you can't go outside, okay? You can't go outside, and there are these gigantic silos that have been placed in the ground where humanity lives, right? The rest of humanity, all of humanity lives in these silos because if you go outside, you die, right? That's kind of the premise, right? But these silos are gigantic, and there's floors upon floors upon floors upon floors, and there's thousands and thousands of people that live in this silo, right? But the thing is that you can't go outside, but you can ask to go outside. And if you ask to go outside, you will go outside. And if you do go outside, there is a large, gigantic screen where people can watch you go outside and basically perish. And there's plenty of people that decide that they want to go outside. And yeah, it's incredibly interesting. This series, I don't really see it talked about much, but I mean, there is like a show on Apple Plus now, I guess, which you could check out. I think I've watched all of the episodes that have come out so far. I enjoy the show as well, so it could give you something to watch as well. It's always kind of fun, right, when you're first getting into reading, to have something that has like some sort of like visual representation as well. But truly, the story, it starts off pretty grounded. I guess that makes sense because they're in a silo in the ground. But it starts off pretty grounded, but it certainly expands from there. And I was interested in the expansion. I could see maybe people not being super interested in that, but I definitely was. This next one definitely has a special place in my heart, and that is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. This is the book that really got me into reading. And I mean like reading every single day. Basically, since I've read this book, I have picked up a book and read every day since. And it has been like, I'm so glad that I decided to try this book out. So for a long time, I've had this desire to want to read, but the actual act of sitting down and like opening a book and looking at pages, I always struggled. I don't know if it was like attention span stuff. I really don't know, but I would like be able to sit down for maybe 10, 15 minutes, try and get to like, I would always set a goal. I want to read 20 pages. And a lot of times I would struggle to even get that far, and I would maybe get to 20 pages and then just be done. But this book was the one that really changed that for me. So this is the first ever thriller that I ever read. And I think that just the fact of how fast paced it was and how many, there was just so many twists and turns, and this thing happened, and oh my God, this thing. And then it was just so addicting that I read this book in 2 days. And for me, that was just such a huge moment for me, because every other book that I had ever read would take me a lot of times like maybe a full month to read the book, because I just was never super motivated to read it. I didn't like look forward to sitting down and reading it. Even if I was interested in the story, it didn't make me want to stop the other things that I was doing and read that book. So the only one left is a thriller, and it follows Kit, who she is basically a home health aide, and she gets tasked to work at Hope's Inn, which is this mansion that's on the front of the book, and she is supposed to take care of Lenora Hope. Now, Lenora Hope has kind of some lore surrounding her in the area that she lives, and there's actually been this like childhood rhyme that was made about her life, and it goes like this. So it says, at 17, Lenora Hope hung her sister with a rope, stabbed her father with a knife, took her mother's happy life. It wasn't me, Lenora said, but she's the only one not dead. So that was like, that's been Kit's whole life. That has been this chant that has been, you know, sung at schoolyards and stuff. And so the fact that she has been tasked to be Lenora Hope's home health aide, she's like, you know, she struggles with like, oh, it's probably, you know, kids just being silly and it's not very real. But at the same time, there's some stuff that goes down when she is at the house that makes her reconsider that stuff. So yeah, it is just incredibly interesting. There's a lot of twists and turns. For me personally, there was almost too many twists in this book. But again, I mean, it definitely kept me reading. And so with that being said, even though it maybe wasn't a 6-star book for me, this book means a lot to me because it really showed me that I am capable of reading a book in 2 days, and that these things that maybe I thought it would always take me, you know, a month to read a book just wasn't true. And so I'll always really appreciate this book. The last book is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. This book has been such an important part of my reading journey. I was able to actually share my thoughts on this YouTube channel, and a lot of people left very nice comments about that. But I think like this book and reading and getting into that like classic fantasy, I guess, it was just such a breath of fresh air. Like I had always known about The Hobbit, right? I've known about Lord of the Rings, but I never read them. And I just wanted to see if I could, right? And then The Hobbit, I think, is just such a perfect starting point because it really was made for kids, right? It was a kids kind of story, and it reads like that for sure, but there's still themes and stuff that are more than that. But I think more than anything, the reason that this book makes the list is just Bilbo's character in that book is, I don't know, it just really resonated with me a lot, and I really like his character in the book, and it was just such a joy to read. Like I still don't think I've ever had a book that I smiled as much just reading it, just the way that J.R.R. Tolkien writes, especially in this book. In Lord of the Rings, it's still very similar, but he takes a step back of doing the I guess he breaks the fourth wall. I don't really know exactly what the term is, where he'll be, you know, talking about something and then he'll put in quotes like a little thought that maybe he would have or the writer of that section has. And I just always really liked that style. And then another thing that I actually mentioned in my Hobbit like a review video was that I really loved how every chapter in this book kind of is its own little story, right? That has kind of a beginning, middle, and an end. And I've noticed myself when I was reading the book that it was kind of a really nice feeling of like knowing that this chapter is going to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it just felt very cozy. I don't think I've had another book that made me just kind of feel, I guess, like a kid again reading it, even though I didn't read this as a kid, but it really felt like I just had that childlike wonder when I was reading this book. And so I think it'll always have a special place in my heart. But those are the 5 books that, you know, turned me into a reader. I just want to say, if you're watching this video and you're someone that wants to start reading and you feel like there's just, you know, there's just so many things that are going on that make it so you can't do it, I just want to encourage you that you can. And I think that you should, if it's something that you have a desire, right? I'm assuming if you're watching this video and you are thinking to yourself, I would like to do that, that's all that you need, right? You just need that spark, you need that desire, and just like try and find something that works for you. Like a lot of these are fantasy books, right? But there's a kind of a mixture of books, and that's what I'd recommend. Don't feel like, oh, I have to read fantasy or I have to read sci-fi. Like, give thrillers a shot. Give literary fiction a shot. Give historical fiction a shot. Give nonfiction a shot, right? Like, you might not even realize that your favorite genre is out there and you're just not even thinking about giving it a shot, right? And there's tons of genres that I still want to try out, that I will be trying out, that I'm looking forward to. And who knows, maybe I'll find my new favorite genre by trying that stuff out. But I just want to encourage anybody, you know, if you want to read, I do think that it's possible. You know, there's nothing wrong with starting with audiobooks or just sticking with audiobooks. I think the audiobooks count as reading, so you shouldn't feel bad about that. And if you're worried about just like not being able to focus and just sit and read a book, try an audiobook when you're going on a run, or when you're at the gym, or when you're doing the dishes, or when you're just doing something where it's kind of mindless activity and you can just throw an audiobook on and you know, listen to a new story. But I just wanted to share those books with you guys. If you guys want to talk about maybe the 5 books that turned you into a reader, or maybe even the 1 book that was like the thing that really got you going, I would love to hear it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Shout out books.